Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our Wednesday evening class, Educating Women in the Light of Chassidus. We always like to start off with giving. How we give, that's how Hashem is going to give to us. And how we treat others, that's how Hashem will treat us. So it's a very beautiful lesson, and I hope Hashem gives to everyone on here so generously. And I'm going to start off with giving tzedakah. This class tonight is dedicated in memory of a very dear friend's husband. Thank you for sponsoring this class. It's in honor of Shner Zalman ben Gimpel Avraham. May his neshama have the highest aliyah. Everything that I heard about him, he is close to an angel. And they say that when one passes away, we keep them alive through doing goodness and kindness and mitzvos. And we are learning tonight in honor of your dear husband. And may his neshama have the highest aliyah. And may we see him so soon with the coming of Mashiach. And Hashem should comfort you in every way that he can, because you deserve it and you're awesome. So I feel very lucky to be your friend. And thank you so much for this. So
thank you.
You're awesome. Thank you everyone for joining tonight's class. I'm very excited to introduce to you a very dear person who I have the honor of knowing, Mrs. Rivkah Slonim. She is the Associate Director at the Rohr Chabad Center for Jewish Students' Life, a self-described Hasidic feminist. She lectures internationally. She wrote 2 books, and possibly more on the way. We are so lucky to have you tonight to share with us secrets of relationships. So if you can unmute yourself, Rivkah, that would be so wonderful. And we're so happy to have you tonight.
Thank you so much for having me. You're a true inspiration. I tell you this every time I see you, and it's inspiring to be with all of these wonderful women. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. So tonight I wanted to share a few thoughts on the theme of You Are Gold, secrets from Kabalah for lasting relationships, all kinds of relationships. And in a few minutes, I'm going to have one of our hosts or co-hosts share a screen with a handout that'll make it easier for you to follow along. But first, just preamble. So to paraphrase Dickens, people are the best part of life and the worst part of life. Our interpersonal relationships are the most difficult, but the most satisfying aspects of our existence. Working with people can be extremely gratifying, even uplifting, or acutely difficult, even painful. So pathologists have an easier, but potentially much less satisfying job than do internists or pediatricians, in the same way that creating cakes is less stressful than is working in the HR department of a major corporation. So we've gathered tonight to talk about relationships, our friends, our coworkers, our family members, our spouses, siblings, and who among us cannot use some help in this department? I want to start with a story that I remember hearing from my paternal grandfather about a young man who didn't have the best relationship with his mother-in-law, but at some point got inspired to try to make it a little bit better. So he went to a gift shop to buy something for her, and he figured he'll give her a present. That's always a good way to soften someone up. And while he was there, he was looking around and he was becoming excited with all the beautiful options there were, more expensive than his budget dictated, but he was taking note of what he might buy for someone he really did like, when inadvertently he knocked over a very expensive vase. So now, not only is he spending money on his mother-in-law, who he's not particularly fond of, but now he also has to pay for this broken vase. And then he has an idea. He picks up all the pieces of the vase, he brings it to the front of the store, and he says, please wrap this up for me. And while it was a very weird, bizarre request, hey, this person's going to pay for it. And while they're wrapping it up in the front, again, he becomes busy looking at what he might buy for somebody he loves. And then they snap him out of his reverie and they tell him that his parcel is ready and it's gift wrapped so beautifully. And he takes it, and on his way over to his mother-in-law, he rehearses exactly what he's going to do. He's going to tell her how much he appreciates her. And just as he approaches her with the box, he is going to slip on the proverbial banana peel, and he'll be able to attribute the broken vase to this accident. And that's exactly what happens. He comes into his mother-in-law's house and he asks her how she's doing and how was her day, and tells her he really wanted to buy her a little something because he so appreciates her and the many, many wonderful things with which he enriches his life. And then he slips and he falls and the package falls on the floor and he makes all the appropriate noises and the clucking and he's worried about the integrity of the gift. And she says, don't worry, it's really the thought that counts. And very touched and surprised, she opens the gift. And to his horror, every piece of the vase was carefully wrapped, individually wrapped in, protective paper. And the reason I lead with this story, which may or may not have happened, is because the truth of the matter is this happens all the time. There are so many books and articles and podcasts and whatever about relationships with siblings, children, our significant others, our coworkers, our siblings. It goes on and on and on. I'd like to suggest that there is a way to address all of these different relationships in some kind of less differentiated and more holistic manner. And to this end, I want to share some ancient wisdom with you. So I'm going to ask our host or co-host to please share screen and put that handout on the screen so everybody can see it. I'll just give you a moment. Thank you. Perfect. Okay. So, people say that the concept of the world being comprised of 4 basic elements, earth, water, wind, and fire, in Hebrew, afar, mayim, ruach, and eish, is widely attributed to Aristotle and some of his contemporaries. But in fact, in the Jewish tradition, we find mention of this in the very first book of Jewish mysticism, known as Sefer HaYetzirah, which is attributed, at least by some, to Adam, that's Adam of Eve fame, and by others to Abraham. So it's fair to say that this has been around in Jewish thought for quite some time. Now, related to this notion of 4 elemental building blocks, again, earth, water, air, and fire, is the concept of 4 strata or 4 categories within creation. So if you look at the second table, whoever's doing the hosting, if you could move the document up a little so people can see. Excellent. Thank you very much. So here we have the 4 strata or categories of creation. We have domem, the inanimate, someach, the world of vegetation, chai, the animal kingdom, and midaber, humanity. And I want to suggest that understanding some basic ideas about these 2 sets of 4 and how our psyches work and understand can change the way we relate to everyone and everything. So let's begin with looking at the 4 strata of creation. Clearly, this is perfect. So people can see the two charts at the same time. Thank you. Perfect. So clearly we're looking at an ascending hierarchy, with the inanimate being the most lowly and man being, or humanity being, the pinnacle of creation. A stone can simply be. A plant can grow. An animal can move, feed, and fend for itself and its young, and even communicate. Humanity, only humanity, has endless capacity to generate language. Only humanity has a self and higher consciousness. only humanity can make moral decisions. But there is a startling, even sobering side to this. Quite counterintuitively, we find that the higher you ascend on the ladder of existence, the greater the level of neediness and dependency. A rock, for instance, needs no one. A mineral needs nothing. Vegetation, on the other hand, needs soil and rain. Animals, their needs are still more complex. They include food and shelter and safety for itself and its young, and so on and so forth. And our needs as human beings, let's just say they seem to be infinite. So, question for you to consider: are we needier because we are more capable, or are we more capable because we are more needy? It turns out that we're more capable because we are more needy. You see, plants can remain stationary because essentially all they need is earth and water. Some plants need sun, and those plants will move and grow in the direction of the sunlight. But animals, they cannot afford to be stationary. They need to find nourishment and shelter and propagate the species and protect their young. So they need to move beyond their bit of earth upon which they were born. Unlike vegetation, they cannot remain stationary. Life forces them to move and utilize the God-created aspects of their body, including their intellect, to affect the need that affect the needs to survive. Now, the human being has all of the needs of an animal, plus the most difficult of all needs to meet, and that is the needs of a self-conscious being equipped with a moral compass, or at least the knowledge that there should be and there is a moral compass. This is a being who seeks validation and recognition, who yearns for approval, love, and consummate union, who has a need to make a mark, to accomplish, to contribute, who has a yen to expand one's horizons and integrate the new into one's experience. We're always seeking more, to discover a new world, to rise above ourselves, to take it, whatever it is at that moment, to the next level. We're never satisfied to know where we are. We always want to know where we came from and where we're going. In other words, we have a desperate need for relationships, a relationship with God, a relationship with our fellow humans. And that's what makes human life so deliciously deep and so exasperatingly complex. We're forced by our distinctive needs to move in our lives beyond the inanimate, beyond the level of vegetation and the basic and brute animal instincts, and to live truly as humans fully. So again, our needs bring us to develop certain capabilities. And not to belabor this point, I'll just use one example. Our math skills are arguably much weaker with the invention of the calculator. Our memories, much of it goes unused with the numbers stored in cell phones and data stored and available with the touch of a finger, et cetera, et cetera. So we do in response to a need. That's how we work. And here, however, is the most interesting thing about a human being. In essence, we want to just be left alone. We want to be inanimate. We want to just be. But life catapults us into movement. We must move and shake and leave our homes. We must wander the earth to collect, shape, and harness its energies in our service. We must learn to relate to others and work with them. We're forced to relate on these levels because we simply cannot survive otherwise. Now, if life is good, if we are blessed, we enjoy these overtures. We enjoy the challenge. We enjoy the new and interesting experiences. We enjoy exploring the world. But as the great philosopher Yogi Berra once said, the best parts of the trip are leaving and coming home, especially coming home. Why? No matter how exciting, how gorgeous, how beautiful, but only in our home, in our inanimate space, are there no external demands made on us. This is where we don't have to prove ourselves. We don't have to perform. We don't have to gauge reactions. We don't have to adjust our approach. We don't have to measure our words. We don't have to massage egos. We can just be. This is what the Talmud means when it says that a man is not a man if he does not have a home, a place to come home, to roost, a place where our raw essence can be exposed. And this, by the way, is the most profound understanding of a Talmudic expression that could make you, I don't know, it can make you bristle. The expression is Beito zu ishto. One's home is one's wife. So you might think this is saying, yeah, you know, your wife, your homemaker. But really what this means is your home is where your spouse is, because your spouse similarly is not a person you have to impress, woo, or wow. Your spouse accepts you just the way you are, warts and all. Your domain, your inanimate, your essential aspect can just connect to their domain. The Kabalah explains that, in fact, the domain aspect of our personality is actually the deepest, most essential self. It is who we are, most essentially and truly. It is our pristine core. Before we begin to express and project and communicate, in other words, evolution is actually a state of devolution. The further and wider and more complex and intricate our expression, the more profoundly we move away from our essential self. Let me concretize this with an example. What were to happen if someone asks me why I love my child? Well, if I said to you, I love my child because they speak 16 languages, they cook every type of cuisine, they clean the house, they get straight A's, and I go on and on and on, you should call the police, call Child Protective Agency. I am clearly not fit to mother. If I say I love my child, I look at you incredulously and I say, why do I love my child? Because they're my child. That makes sense. So if I can break down why I love my child, I don't understand how to love a child. Because the love of a parent to a child is pristine, it's pure, it's domain to domain. It's not about any aspect of the veneer, as exciting as it might be. Another example, jealousy. The Talmud says that a person is jealous of everyone save for their child and their student, because these are not competitors and never will be. Why? Because you've put a part of yourself into them. They are part of you. Their success is important to you. Their achievements bring you pleasure and happiness. So actually, the broader you can make your team that you're rooting for, the less you will ever feel jealous. What this means is that to find success in all of our relationship, to widen the lens, we have to find a way to relate domain to domain, inanimate to inanimate, with everyone, not only our soulmates, not only our children. So how do we do this? So to begin to answer this most important question, we must first understand a little bit more about what plagues our relationships. What are the most common problems or challenges to blissful unity? That sounds a little bit too pie in the sky. Let's talk about peaceful coexistence. Let's start with that, okay? So what are the most frequent problems? The Kabalah teaches, as do various forms of ancient philosophies, and mind you, modern schools of psychology, that people fall into one of four personality types. These basic prototypes or property are our most salient features, but of course, each person is comprised of all of these properties to some extent. Now, these basic properties or modalities of expression can be used in a healthy way or the opposite. This means that all of our interpersonal issues, difficulties, pathologies fall in one of four categories. And these are the first set of four categories referenced on our little sheet: earth, water, air, and fire. Man, we are taught, is actually a combination of all four, which is why from the moment we begin to live in this combination, we begin to die a little. In and of itself, these elements are eternal. They will never be extinct, but in combination, they immediately begin the process of decay. So paradoxically, what makes us tick also makes us fall apart, becomes the source of our tension. We can either build on these four or crumble because of them. The law of entropy. So there are people who suffer earth syndrome. They're stuck. They suffer heaviness. It manifests as laziness and sloth, the inability to relate to others or do what's necessary to nurture a relationship. Also coming out of the earth syndrome is depression. Laziness comes to the fact that I don't want to move from my default state. Depression can be understood as coming from not having all that I could if I did not move. And just a very important disclaimer here, I talk not about clinical depression, but just feeling like down and so on and so forth. Let's move to water. Water, we're taught, is the source of all life. And in the analog, it's the glue of all relationships. There are many who do relate to others, but not in a healthy modality. It's a one-way street, a singular goal to see what I can get out of you. This is the water-driven illness. Water, we're told, generates all desires and lusts. What can I get out of this personal relationship with no eye towards the other person for who they are or what they need? Alternatively, there is the ear syndrome, the insatiable quest to feed or stoke oneself through so-called fun, frivolity, essentially content-free behavior, silliness, sarcasm, all of which anesthetizes people to their inner turmoil. It allows them to skirt or be distracted from issues of reality and substance. Like the water-based illness, the ear syndrome can lead to addiction, which is the result of running away. So addiction, like I think Rabbi Dr. Twersky taught us, is not the problem. It's the ill-conceived solution to a problem. And whether it's ear-based or it's water-based, it's not healthy. Now note, only man can succumb to addiction. An animal can never eat too much.
Okay.
Yeah, I unmuted myself. Can you hear me? Hold on. So we were talking just a moment ago about people using the water-based pathology to numb themselves by satisfying their desires, or the ear-based syndrome by trying to run away or skirt, and how this could feed into addiction. And it's interesting to note, Rabbi Twersky notes this, that only men can succumb to addiction. Animals cannot, they will not eat too much, ingest harmful substances, not willingly at least, because only man has a higher consciousness. And that higher consciousness is what plagues the person and moves them towards addiction. We could talk a lot more about this another time. And finally, and most ubiquitous, is fire, arrogance, and anger. The need to subsume and consume the other within the self. There's a fascinating law, halakha, Jewish law. While it's not considered a classic milacha to break a vessel on Shabbat, it's forbidden to purposefully break a vessel on Shabbat. But if it's not for constructive purposes, then it wouldn't be considered a trespass of one of the 39 major categories of forbidden work on Shabbat. However, and this is fascinating, if one breaks something out of anger, then that is considered the quintessential milacha, one of the 39 forbidden categories, because that is constructive, because anger is about breaking someone else. So breaking something out of anger is a creative accomplishment towards that end. Not a positive, but still creative. This is why pity neutralizes anger. When you realize the person you hate or you're angry at is already broken, you can calm down. Now, clearly, any one of these four areas of pathology will kill a relationship. So how can we find a way to deal with these issues? We can take each one of these issues or shortcomings apart separately, or we can find some basic, essential, overarching way to completely change our orientation. So I want to suggest that we do this by going back to what we said earlier about domain, inanimate, the most essential level. Let's consider who we are on the domain level. Who are we really? So to understand this, to concretize this, who would we say is the more healthy, deeply balanced, truly secure person? The person who has an insatiable need for attention, is always in the limelight, always making noise, or the person who's okay with being in the background, but will come forth if and when needed. It's pretty simple, it's not rocket science. The answer is the difference between what earth and gold are worth. What is pure, unadulterated dirt worth? Mud, gravel, earth. Well, immediately you're going to tell me it's contingent. Earth has a contextual worth. If it's real estate, and if it's in Manhattan, it's going to have one price. It can turn out to be very, very impressive. But, if it's in Ohio or Binghamton, not so much. Gold, on the other hand, has inherent worth. If you turn it into jewelry, okay, it might be worth slightly more for the workmanship, but relatively little more. Its overwhelming worth is inherent and completely not dependent on what you do with it. So here's the clincher. We have to realize that we are gold, that our soul, our expression of pure divinity within each one of us, makes us inherently invaluable. We are worthy. We are good. We are great. If we were to believe that we were simply a coincidence, a result of some random evolutionary mutation, then yes, I am worth only what I make of myself. But if God created me, and God does not create junk, and there are no mistakes, I am inherently of infinite and incalculable worth. Now we have to be careful with this. The feeling of ego is a double-edged sword. It's the most powerful force for good and the most pernicious agent of destruction. It can only be channeled properly for the good if it's tempered. If on the one hand, there's the indubitable fact that I am important, I make a difference, and on the other hand, there's a certain knowledge that this is true only insofar as my actions reflect and bring glory to the creator of all. So we have this oft-repeated story about having two pieces of paper in your pocket. In one pocket, you have a piece of paper that says the world was created for me, just for me. That is true. The world was created just for me to act as God's proxy. In the other pocket is a piece of paper that says, I am but dust and ashes. And that is true if I'm not acting as God's proxy. And here's an interesting thing. Halakha, Jewish law, teaches that there are legalities that can be affected by proxy. And in those cases, the messenger, the agent, acts as if they are an extension of the person themselves. They are simply the conduit through which what Mr. A must accomplish is accomplished. On the other hand, in order to act as an agent or proxy or messenger, one must be an adult with full capacity to think independently. In other words, you can only feel someone else's self if you're conscious of your own self. You can only understand what it means that someone else is gold when you understand that you are inherently gold. And when we realize this, a wondrous thing happens. It is so freeing. We no longer have to prove ourselves. We don't have to become anything to prove our worth. We simply have to be the best version of who we are already. If we meditate on this concept and we integrate this properly, we understand what it means to be gold, who we are at the core. That is what I am at the domain level, not only to my spouse or my parents who love me unconditionally, but that is who I am. And then we can relax and we can stop molding ourselves into what we're not. And then we can concentrate on relationships that flow from a place of strength and therefore giving rather than taking. For example, why is it so hard for some of us to take a compliment? Maybe because the more you need it, the more uncomfortable it is to hear it. The more you craved it, the more vulnerable you are, the more difficult it is to acknowledge that, the more difficult it is for this kind of person to give a compliment to someone else. They're too busy with their own insecurities. Said differently, people with a healthier sense of self-esteem, beginning with the premise that I am gold, have an easier time being vulnerable, taking from someone else. They can also more easily afford to give someone the great joy and pleasure of being a necessary and contributing factor in their lives. They don't have to keep up the pretense of being invincible and impermeable. So to conclude, when we recognize that we are gold, not dirt, we can begin to relate to other people from a whole different point of departure, a position of strength. And here's what it might look like. My earth is my stability. Now we're going back to the 4 aspects of which we're comprised. My earth is my stability. It's my ability to hear someone else out, even to take direction or suggestion. Some would call this maturity. Instead of heaviness in a gold-based relationship, the earth gives me a rock-solid basis. It gives birth to commitment and devotion and humility. This is somewhat counterintuitive, but arrogance is very often, if not most often, a result of insecurity. In a gold-based relationship, my water allows me to love rather than to lust. I want to do something for you. That gives me more pleasure than taking. Remember, in a healthy relationship, water makes it grow. Now let's understand this for a moment. Much of what we do is driven by guilt or a feeling of, I must do this, either commitment or a sense of this is the right thing to do. But if we free ourselves and concentrate on what we want to give, we can get a lot further. Guilt or commitment can be a great motivator, but often ends in resentment. But if that same overture or work comes from a place of free will, then again, counterintuitively, it can be selfless rather than selfish. And if this sounds like a riddle, let me just concretize this. If I'm not worried, if I really want to do this for you, I can concentrate on meeting your need rather than mine to check this off a list or to assuage my guilt. If I'm gold and you need me to be turned into a vase or a watch, I can live with that because I know that I'm gold. So if you need me to mop the floor, I can do that. And if you need me to bake a cake, I can do that. Gold-based relationship. And that prototype, my ear factor, the ruach, instead of frivolity and sarcasm or fun, ear in a healthy relationship is sheer happiness, which I think most of us have already figured out flows not from getting, but from giving. True happiness has everything to do with humility. The arrogant person can never truly be happy because they can never be truly thankful and appreciative. And finally, in this healthy place, fire is about passion and leadership. It's not about consuming the other in my flame, but about sharing it, like Chaya does every Wednesday night, and inspiring and warming others. So imagine how much this one idea can change our lives. We have to remember we are 24 karat gold. We each have a veritable aspect of the divine within us. So how can I treat you as anything less? And I'm gold, so why would I want to? And how could I treat you like anything else? So take that to the gold, ladies. It's worth, take that to the bank. Gold is worth a lot today. Those are my words, Chaya. I hope that was the right length.
That was beautiful. So I would like to ask you, if it's okay, to share with us a personal Rebbe story. You said you have a family story. I love the Rebbe and I want to share the Rebbe with all of you. So I would love to hear it. And then after we'll open up, if anyone has any questions, you can send me a message and we can ask questions. And then after that, for those that are new on this program, we share a Rebbe video. After the video, I was asked the last 2 weeks, we introduced something called JLI, Jewish Learning Institute. And Shandy Jacobson will answer some questions that was asked to me privately about the JLI retreat and what JLI is. And yeah, so in the chat box, while Rivkah shares her personal Rebbe story with us, I'm just going to put in the Refuah Shalemas and in memory of, if that's okay. And before we continue this program, today's a very dear friend's birthday. She passed away as well. Her name is Adel Razel Bas Avram David. For those that know Razel Vavovsky, today's her birthday. And I was told by someone Rivkah's related to, that after someone passes away, they still celebrate birthdays in heaven. So happy birthday, Razel. And I hope you're celebrating, and I hope we get to see you real soon. And thank you again to Dvorah Leah for sponsoring in honor of Shneir Zalman Ben Gimel Avram. He should have the ultimate place in heaven and highest aliyah, and he should be so proud. And when we do down here for souls that passed away and for those loved ones that passed away, it really brings them so much joy. So I hope we could all tap into that and do for those that are no longer able to do for themselves. So Rivkah, thank you for sharing the story.
Sure. So Chaya asked me to share a personal Rebbe story. And I told Chaya, while I was extremely privileged to grow up in the Rebbe's orbit and to see the Rebbe many, many times and to attend Farbrengens and to receive dollars and so on and so forth, but I don't actually have a personal story. And then I said to her, that's what I wanted to share. And I want to lead with a story about my maternal grandfather, Rabbi Zalman Garari, Olav Shalom. So his oldest brother, his name was Herschel. And one day, Reb Herschel Garari was standing around with a few other Hasidim, and they started talking about miracles that their Rebbe had wrought for them. And each one shared a story and shared a problem that they had, and then concluded by saying what the Rebbe said, or what the Rebbe said they should do, or what the Rebbe did to take away their problem. And each one was sharing a great miracle. And then it was Herschel's turn, Reb Herschel's turn. And Reb Herschel told about a time where he asked the Rebbe's advice about investing a lot of his money in an enterprise, a new lumber business. And the Rebbe told him to go ahead and do so. So he was sure that he had the Rebbe's blessing, and he invested. And then it happened that all the lumber was confiscated. And with that, he lost all of his money. And then he finished speaking. So his friends said to him, "New?" He said, "What new? That's the end of my story." They said, so what's the miracle? What's in Hebrew it's called, what's the meifus? What is the wonder that the Rebbe wrought? He said, the miracle? That I am still the Rebbe's chassid. That irrespective of the fact that things didn't turn out exactly as I thought, I still believe that the Rebbe's vision and the Rebbe's blessing guides me and accompanies me, and my belief in the Rebbe is not at all compromised, tarnished, etc., etc. And I said to Chaya that I think it's important for people to know that not everybody and not at every time will there be this perfect Rebbe story, this miracle that's going to be tied up in a beautiful bow, and everybody walks off in the sunset, holding arms in blissful peace or something like that. Life is messy, life is complex. There are so many strata on which things are happening. We never really know why things are happening the way they do. But whether we have a personal Rebbe story or not, we all have a Rebbe. We all have a soul that is comprised and connected to all of our souls, that is constantly nourishing and nurturing and lavishing upon us all types of blessing. And I, of course, wish all of us, all of you, all of life's blessings, all delivered in the most open and manifest form, because we're simple people. So although we know that everything that God does is good, we ask God to just give us good that we can recognize as good. You know, the kind of good that smells good, the kind of good that tastes good, the kind of good that feels good. Please, Hashem, bless us all with that kind of good. And the Rebbe is a faithful shepherd of his people, a conduit through which so much blessing flows. And no matter how many times and how many people will gather, even over the next millennia, to share stories of the Rebbe, we will not ever come to an end. The stories are really, people are finding out and people are sharing stories that are just incredible. So we'll never exhaust the storehouse of stories. Nevertheless, parallel to that, at the same time, I just wanted to share my own personal experience, which is not predicated on a miracle or on a particular story.
So Rivkah, we have a question. I'm going to read it from the chat box, if that's okay.
I can open up the chat box.
Well, it's privately sent to me.
Then I won't see it. Okay.
Unless the person that sent to me privately wants to ask.
No, that's okay. Why don't you just read it?
I'm gonna read it. Okay. And if anyone has any questions, please ask. Okay. Maybe you can describe a person where there are 4 factors: fire, water, air, earth, are out of balance. How do we help a friend, a sibling, mother work out this imbalanced relationship?
I am not going to go there because every person is so different. Every situation is so different. Every imbalance is so different. Imbalances are not created equal. So I think that's a good question. We probably all have an imbalance of some sort. It's just a matter of acuteness. And it's a good question. And we definitely have imbalances that need to be worked out and need to be thrashed out and worked through. But, you know, there's no way I can answer that question intelligently. You know, that's a person by person, best done with, you know, somebody who's trained to help people understand more about themselves, their behaviors, what the reasons are for those behaviors, etc. But a good first step is kind of to think about the themes we spoke of, to think about these ideas, try to identify what's going on in ourselves and in others. And more than anything else, just try to keep focused on the truth of who we are and who everybody else is, and try to meet every person and every challenge and every interaction with that point of departure, with knowing that we are gold.
Thank you, Rivkah. If anyone has any other questions, please unmute yourself, and then we're going to conclude with the rest of the program. I just heard Rivkah speak. I'm just going to share something, if that's okay. In Crown Heights, she spoke at a shul close to my home, and people were memorized. She shared about mikvah, and she spoke in front of an audience of men and women, and they were sitting separately, the men and the women. And I got some feedback from some of the men there, from someone that I know who's friends with them, and they said that they never knew that mikvah included a man. And the men were so interested in hearing more, and it was so incredible. And it's never too late to practice mikvah. A few weeks ago, Rivkah, we shared a video of you, and if anybody wants it privately, I could send it, about the video that you shared. It's the only mitzvah that a woman can do to retroactive mitzvah. Like if we forgot to light Shabbat candles or say Shema or the blessings, we can't go backwards. But the only mitzvah that we could go backwards is go to the mikvah one last time to purify whatever needs to do in our life to bring more life. I don't know if I'm saying it correctly. So Rivki, if you could just expand on that for just one moment. Because we have some new followers tonight, and I would love for them to hear that amazingness that you shared.
Well, I would just say that if a Jewish woman is married to a Jewish man, she can attend the mikvah, even if she's never done it before, even if she's postmenopausal, and accompanied with true intention to return to Hashem, to come closer to Hashem. That immersion can retroactively affect the souls of her children, her grandchildren, her great-grandchildren. So it's the potency of even that one immersion can hardly be overstated. So if there's somebody who has never heard of mikvah and wants to know more, I'm sure Chaya will be happy to talk to you about it. Or if you've heard about it and you want to explore it in greater detail, don't be shy and don't lose this opportunity.
Someone just asked one more question, if that's okay, before we conclude with the video and the second part of the program. Someone asked how a man is part of mikvah.
Well, I mean, I think my point is, I think that you were citing is that this is not a woman's mitzvah. This is a Jewish commandment. This is called Taharat HaMishpacha, purity for the family. When a woman goes into the mikvah, she is taking, like when she does any other mitzvah, in fact, she is taking the other part of her soul into the mikvah with her, and the other part of her soul is in her husband. But on a very, very simple level, this is a mitzvah that it takes two to tango. It involves her and her husband, and they have to live their lives, and certainly the intimate part of their lives, in accordance with the cycle that has mikvah at its very center. So that's what we mean when we say that, yeah, men are in the picture when it comes to mikvah.
Thank you, Rivki. That was really wonderful. Someone just wrote, can I read it out loud? Someone just wrote something for everybody. Let me know. But yeah, someone said I could read it out loud. So thank you for that. I fasted on Yom Kippur for the first time in a long time when I was off the derech in, I don't know how to pronounce, Binghamton. Thank you for having your Chabad house there 32 years ago. I remember your story about the lumber. That gave me so much chizuk. And I was just at the Ohel Sunday and didn't see an answer right away, but did actually see movement today in my tefillah to the Rebbe and Hashem. Someone asked, can single men go to the mikvah too? I'm just going to answer that, and Rivki, tell me if I answered correctly. Single men couldn't go to the mikvah. The mikvah, Taharat HaMishpacha, the woman goes to the mikvah. It's a joint effort, but the woman goes. A man can go to the mikvah. It's a separate mitzvah for the man, nothing to do with marriage. It's just a purification for the man's body and soul.
If I may, I just want to crystallize that for a woman to go on a monthly basis, if she is still menstruating, is one of the most important mitzvot in the Torah. For a man to go to the mikvah is a custom. The only time that it's mandatory is as the crescendo, the final aspect of conversion to the Jewish faith. Other than that, in this era, it is customary. So it's really a very, very different thing than the mikvah immersion on the part of the woman that we're discussing.
Okay, someone just asked me a question. So thank you for sending it to me privately. I'll just answer it publicly. Someone asked if we could have a class on mikvah. We did have 2 classes on mikvah. So please reach out privately to me. My number's in the chat and I can send you the recording. And if there is a want for another class, we can definitely.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, we can definitely have, if she's willing, Rivki to come back and share with us about mikvah in the future. But let's just see if
I'll be happy to do that.
Incredible. So thank you, Rivki, for sharing. tonight, and we're going to conclude with a video, and then we are going to answer some questions that we had 2 weeks ago that people asked me privately about JLI. So Shandy Jacobson is so kind, and she is going to stay on and share with us what JLI is. It's actually something that I am passionate about because I believe it's an amazing learning, and there's so much free parts of the JLI, and I would love for you guys to learn about it. So, and tap into it. So we're gonna conclude with sharing a video, and if you'd like, you can stay on after.
אני לפני ניתוח קשה בעיניים,
אז
ביום רביעי.
יהיה בכל טוב ומוצלחת ובשורות טובות.
תודה רבה.
ברכה רבה. רבי, יש לך עין טובה.
רבי נדבר על החיים.
יש לך עין טובה בכל המדינה ובבני ישראל.
כן.
אבל בישראל גם כן בריקו למים הגשמיים, שמביטים על בני ישראל,
כן.
ובכך זכות ועין טובה, זה מסייע בבריאות והמים של המביט בברכה. ברכה והצלחה, בשורות טובות. ברכה והצלחה.
So that was the video. What I love about this video so much is that we are in the 3 weeks, a time of mourning, and soon it's going to be the 9 days. And then when Tisha B'Av comes, it says that when Mashiach comes, Tisha B'Av, which is one of the saddest days of the year, where the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash happened, and so many people perished and died, and in a horrific manner. So we fast every year, and in the 3 weeks we have customs that we don't listen to live music because we are not meant to be super happy, and in the 9 days we're not meant to go swimming because for safety reasons. You could check out Kabalah.org for the 3 weeks and the 9 days, but it does say, I heard this from my aunt, Rebbe Simchani Lipsker, today on her class that she gives, a Parsha class. If anyone would like to be part of it, you can reach out to me as well on Zoom, that she gives in Florida. And I'm so grateful to the Zoom world now, because I feel like we can, like, if anyone has FOMO of missing out here, we don't have to have FOMO anymore, because many people incorporated Zoom in their teaching. So I always wish that I would live in Florida, but that wasn't God's wish for me. But now I don't feel FOMO anymore. So I'm grateful that I was able to join her class. But I do believe that when you hear something, you should give them credit. So I heard it from her. And she said that when Mashiach comes, when Tisha B'Av happens, it's going to become the biggest day of celebration. So we should conclude that we should do everything we can in the next few weeks to look at everyone with a good eye, and try to look at every situation with goodness, and give people the benefit of the doubt, and try our best to be happy with others and with their success. And no one could take away your shine, and no one could be you. So if everyone can just tap into being the best version of yourself, because at the end of the day, when we go up to heaven at our time, and hopefully we won't have that because Mashiach's coming soon, but everyone has our time. We live 70 or 80 years, or some neshamas fulfill their mission earlier on. And that just means that you are a higher soul and you've fulfilled your mission earlier, and you're just more, ahead of the game. We don't like to hear that, but it's true. So if everyone can, like, when you go up to heaven, they don't ask you why you weren't like your neighbor. They're going to ask you why you weren't like you. Why weren't you the best version of yourself? So I always like a takeaway from our class. So if we can take away that everyone will commit to being the best version of ourselves, and to stay in our own lane and shine your light as much as you can, because everyone has a piece of God inside. We all have a soul, a Jewish soul, a neshama, and we should really elevate that, because wherever we go, we take God with us. So if we are doing something holy, God will be there. If we're doing something unholy, it's not great for God, and it's not great for us. So if everyone tonight can commit to looking at others with the best eye, our right eye, like the Rebbe said, and for this man, whatever he needed to hear, but it's everything that is out there is for all of us to hear. It's so incredible. That's why I shared the Rebbe videos, because I just get very inspired. So how do we inspire? What we love, we share. And if you really, truly love it, it will enter someone else's heart. So I hope you guys like it. So we're going to conclude now with, if Shandy, if you can unmute yourself and tell us about JLI. And if you can also, because I would like to know about this as well, about the Rosh Chodesh Society. I don't know much about it, but I know that you're involved in both of these organizations. So it would be nice to hear about it. So thank you.
Sure. Thank you so much, Chaya, for everything, for organizing this every single week, no matter what happens, rain, snow, sleet, or hail. Hashem should bless you forever and ever, and he should bench you and your dear husband, Izzy, with the fulfillment of all your heart's desires.
Amen.
In the most revealed way. I also want to say thank you, Rivkah, if you're still on, I'm not sure. It was beautiful. I learned so much. I love learning new things, and it was really, really a pleasure to be on here with so many wonderful women. And I will just share a few things because a number of questions have come into Chaya and to me, and I thought if I have an opportunity, I'll just try to respond. So first of all, the real questions that came to us originally were questions people asked about what the National Jewish Retreat is. So being that I'm on here, I'll take a minute and just explain what it is. If anybody wants more details, the easiest way to find out really is to go to JRetreat, the letter J, retreat.com. That is the actual website for the National Jewish Retreat. You can see videos there. You can see the faculty. Very, very soon, the entire program will be published. But in a nutshell, if anybody is looking for a place where they can have the most fantastic, beautiful, exciting, wonderful, physical and spiritual place where heaven and earth meet, I think this is really a great place. It is basically a very, very beautiful physically. It's always at a very, very beautiful hotel. It's usually in different parts of the country. This year it's going to be in Florida, in the Doral, in Miami. It begins Tuesday afternoon. It goes till Sunday afternoon. People are welcome to come for the entire 5.5 days or 6 days. People are welcome to come for one day. There are a lot of different options. It's really, of course, a place where there is really an amazing array of great physicality, the most beautiful and delicious food, and most of all, excellent entertainment, really beautiful stuff. But really, I think the crowning glory of it is, it's a place where you could come, enjoy the physical world in a real spiritual way. There are almost 100 different sessions, presenters of all kinds, rabbis, rebbitzins, entertainers, philosophers, medical doctors, lawyers, you name it. Excellent presentations, all related to Judaism, to study, to halacha, to Kabalah, to Hasidic teachings, hands-on events, challah baking, things related to food tasting, artistic exploits, all kinds of really, really very, very beautiful things. Actually, our fantastic speaker today will be making a guest appearance. Rivkah Slonim will be there, and she will be sharing amazing things. I can guarantee you that her lectures are superbly well attended. There will be all kinds of exciting things. Some of the programs are even, we have, it's not only people actually presenting a lecture, we have panelists, we have crossfires where things are very fast moving, roundtable discussions, etc., etc., etc. This program actually will take place very soon. It will take place the week, it begins right after Tisha B'Av, right after the 9th of the fast day, which this year it's really on Shabbos, but we fast on Sunday because we don't fast on Shabbos. Then we have Monday, and it begins that Tuesday afternoon. The exact date is, I believe, I don't have it in front of me, but I think it's something like July 12th, perhaps. It is the Tuesday right after the 9th of Av, and it concludes on Sunday. I also want to say, if you could only come for a day, that's great. Like I said, probably the most beautiful part of it all, it's all beautiful, is probably Shabbos is really something very, very special. There are also 150 Sinai scholars. Those are Jewish students from campuses across the entire world that join. These students are literally handpicked. They have to make commitments to study certain things. They have to make commitments to write certain papers. They really, really want to be there. They join the rest of the population there for various programs, bring a tremendous spirit. It's really a place where if you come, you will see that Judaism is alive and kicking in the most wonderful way, in the most modern world. So I believe the exact dates are August 9th through August 14th. I do want to say, except for jretreat.com, you can always call the number of JLI. We could put it in the chat box. It's 718. Look at me, I'm losing my mind right now. 221-6900. And if you ask to speak with Aliza, who was actually, I believe, on this class as well tonight. Hi, Aliza, I think you're here. She is the most wonderful person in the entire office to speak to. Everything will always be responded with a smile. So it's again, 718-221-6900. Again, I'm only sharing this because I've gotten many messages, as has Chaya, and I thought if we take 5 minutes and share, some of your questions will be answered. This is in no way saying that you cannot ask any of your questions privately. Feel free to contact me or Chaya or call the office and ask us as many questions as you like. If you have any, it would be a great pleasure. The only other thing I wanted to share was Chaya asked me to, was that my role, I do help work for the retreat, but my real baby in the Jewish Learning Institute organization is something called the Rosh Chodesh Society. It's JLI. We make classes specifically for women, by women, for women. Thank Hashem, thank God, we have 250 chapters of Jewish women around the entire globe, actually on all continents at this point, studying Jewish teachings at the same time, approximately of the month, all around the world. I love that because I think about the power of the Jewish women all united across the world. It's really something spectacular. We will always help you find a chapter wherever you find yourself in the world. If you are a person that cannot go out, you're homebound, I hope you're not. And if you are homebound, I hope it's only for a good reason. We could always connect you to a Zoom class somewhere if that helps you better. Our goal is really, our motto is, I wake up every day and I go to sleep every day saying this: I'm here in this world to make sure to do my little part, that no Jewish woman will be left behind in the study of Torah. So if we can help you in any way, we would very, very much love to do that. I want to say a huge shout out to everybody who works for this organization. I want to say especially to the boss, the one who runs it all, that's Rabbi Ephraim Mintz. And I want to say, Chaya, a special shout out to you because you are so special. You are a very unique person because you really do care about Jewish women learning all over the world. You will share, you will encourage, you do that all the time, and you should be blessed for all of that, which you do. I look forward to meeting many of you women, if it's through Zoom, if it's through live classes, if it's through the retreat, wherever it is. I hope that I could be instrumental in you and your journey towards study. And I wish everybody
You want to meet?
forever.
So Shandy, I have a quick question for you. And then if anyone has questions, we'll open up the floor. I actually have something to share, but I was asked to come last minute. They have an amazing, I don't know what it's called, but something in Crown Heights on Shabbat. And I want to share with all of you because that might be an option if you'd like. But they do this incredible weekend in Crown Heights where you come in and you explore. You go to 770, where that's where everything started with the Rebbe, and then incredible speakers. And I was asked to come and just be a presence from someone in Crown Heights, welcoming the woman. I didn't know one soul. I left knowing many, many friends. The the environment is so incredible. It's for everyone. So Shandy, if you could tell us about that, because I really would love for everyone, if they can't go to the retreat, to maybe consider going to that, because I just want to also, just off the record, I don't work for JLI. I'm just very passionate about spreading light and spreading what's good. I just met Rabbi Ephraim Mintz for the first time. We do share some, my cousin's married to the family, but I never met him. And we were talking and we said we have to meet. But it's just very cool how this class is women talking to women. It started this class with a live Farbrengen. Thank you, Sterny Raskin, Rebbetzin Sterny Raskin from Brooklyn Heights. We went to B'nai Avram, to the shul. Shandy Jacobson came down, and many of you on here was there present. And it was a very beautiful, amazing night that I celebrated with you all in honor of my birthday. It was the first time ever me doing something like that, woman talking to women. It was awesome. I did ask Shandy, I said, maybe we can do something with JLI. It never happened, but tonight we're going to make it happen, because I feel it's really important to keep to the word, and it's just an opportunity. So I would love for Shandy to share with us tonight about the Shabbaton. It happens twice a year, I believe, but it was the most, I was so honored to be asked to join. It was the most incredible program to be part of. So I like to share what's good. Sharing is caring. So if Shandy, if you could share that with us while we already are on this topic.
Sure, yes. So actually the program is called Shabbat in the Heights. And people are invited from everywhere to come and spend a Shabbat right here in Crown Heights. It is very affordable. It usually happens once a year. Usually we try to do it sort of in the spring so that it's easier for people to attend. It begins on Friday afternoon. It ends on Sunday afternoon. It is a really beautiful program, filled to the brim from the beginning to the end, very much like what I said earlier about the actual 5-6 day retreat, except everything is right here in Crown Heights, from amazing food to the most amazing, inspiring prayers, candlelighting, speakers, sessions, discussions, all kinds of learning, beautiful meals, beautiful Havdalah ceremony, a beautiful event on Saturday night, a great event on Sunday morning, culminates with a trip before people leave to go, learning a little bit about what it means to go to the gravesite of a holy person, and then going to visit the gravesite of the Rebbe. Some people go because they're going on the way home to an airport. Others go just because they have an opportunity to go. There are a lot of beautiful things. We can also send you information about that. But the bottom line is this: we just are here to help facilitate. If anybody wants to have any other information or wants to learn about anything Jewish, please never, ever hesitate to reach out. It would be our absolute greatest pleasure to do whatever we can to help and to make you comfortable. So thank you again, Chaya, for allowing me to be part of your amazing classes and learning, and all the blessings in the world to you and to everybody that attends your classes and all of those that you affect.
So Shandy, firstly, it's an honor to have you, like huge honor. Second of all, again, I'm not pitching anything. I get nothing out of this. I never even met Rabbi Ephraim Mintz. He doesn't know that I'm doing this. I'm really doing this because sharing is caring. I also just want to say that there are programs that are free from the JLI. So just go to jli.com or on Facebook, JLI. They put the coolest videos. I love watching it. The retreats are not just for women. It's for men and women, children, and they really do a 5-star program. If anybody wants to ask any questions, please do. And I feel very lucky to have you all on tonight. And thank you for enhancing my Wednesday nights. So yeah, Does anyone, if you have a question, just unmute yourself. Esther, did you have a question? Does anyone want to share anything tonight? Don't be shy. Okay, if not, we're going to end off. If anyone wants any more information, reach out. I'll connect you to Shandy. Thank you, Aliza, for sharing. Aliza is a very dear friend. I met her. I taught her adorable grandson who I still see today, who is the cutest little man. So thank you for being on. Feel very blessed. Thank you everyone for coming. Thank you to all of our new friends. Hope you'll come back again. Just want to share with you next week, we are going to be having a very dear neighbor of mine sharing a personal Holocaust story about her mom, who I heard at a Shabbos gathering, and I sat there and just cried and cried because it was the most beautiful stories you can hear. And she agreed to speak to honor her mom's memory. So next week we're going to have an amazing speaker. I hope you'll all tune in to get inspired. So good night, everybody, and have a blessed week.
Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you.